Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Todd Clint's SharePoint Podcast, recorded at a different time, Tuesday morning, December 27th, 2016. But joining me, even if I shake up the time and do it at a different time, he still follows me around. It's Shane Young. Introduce yourself to the viewer, Shane.
Woohoo! I am here. I would like to point out, so yesterday, just like all the audience, I was ready. I showered, I brushed my teeth, I had my hair done, I wore a fancy shirt, and then you canceled the show. So today I'm like, you know what? I'm wearing sweats and a t-shirt, and it's just going to be for the 5 people who watch this show and actually see the video of us.
Yeah, and I've got the week off, so Rackspace does the thing where your vacation doesn't roll over, so nobody works the last week of the year because you always save a couple of days in case you get sick or whatever. So when Shane and I were talking about this yesterday, he's like, well, let's do it tomorrow morning. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to recognize a morning tomorrow. I'm just going to sleep in. So I got my robe on. You guys are lucky that I got at least that on. But I'm just taking the week off, just, being a bum. But not so much of a bum that we couldn't do the show for you guys.
It's we're just very nice people like that, right? And so... I guess we should do the production notes before I get into random stuff.
You don't want to miss the production notes. But as always, once I start watching my email and stuff again, you can email me at todd.clint@rackspace.com. Hit me up on the web, toddclint.com, Twitter at toddclint, Instagram at toddclint. I guess I need to join like Snapchat or something. I guess that's what all the kids are doing these days, but I'll probably join that. So they get me up on there. Shane, tell them how to get hold of you.
So good old Shane Young, Shane.Young at Bold Zebras. Those guys. Wait,
Hold still. I got this one. Oh, there it is.
Oh, high quality production here. Good old Shane Young at boldzebras.com. Hit me on Twitter at Shane's Cows. My fancy YouTube channel is always there, especially if you're into learning things and not having to put up with Todd's face. So
that sounds so very sad. Very sad.
Have a good time.
All right. So your favorite part of today's show, Shane, the production notes. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to talk about the fact that apparently when someone was doing production last week, they didn't update their header slide, that terrible one that's got the rock and roll music that makes Todd's mullet grow. And so apparently we were the show XXX last week. So this is no longer a family-friendly show. Todd has went dark on us. What do you do?
Yeah. So I think I've done that once before, but I knew at some point that would happen. So from a production standpoint, I do all this in Camtasia. Camtasia is a great piece of software. If you're not already using Camtasia and Snagit by TechSmith, when I reinstall a PC, that's like 2 and 3 of the second things I install. Do it all in Camtasia. So I have a Camtasia project that has my music intro that my buddy Dervish recorded for me and all that stuff, and it just plops it into the new folder. I got a PowerShell script that I say, I've made a new podcast. Here's the title. Copies all that stuff, creates the folder, does all that stuff, populates it out. And then I've got those title slides that have those placeholders in them. And I'm always nervous that I'm going to forget to put the title and stuff because there's no real way to automate that. Like Camtasia doesn't have an API. I can't, have a text block and go into it with an API and say, put this text here. I have to do it manually. And so I always am worried that I'm going to forget that. And I did. You
did, and you weren't even there. I was going to give you the benefit. I was going to tell you before I told the world. I hit you on Skype. I gave you 10 whole seconds to respond. You didn't respond. And I was like, all right, time to share it with the world. So,
yeah. So the good news is most of our audience is audio, so they did not see it.
That is true.
So I'm going to go in. I have to go in anyway because those of you that saw it noticed that I haven't updated it for 2016 yet. So it had 2015 for the year. So I got to go in and update that to 2017. And then I'll change the title to Todd forgot to put the title in. But so hopefully...
I'm glad you're just going to skip over 2016, right? For a lot of people, it was a traumatic year, so I get it. You're right. 2016's out. 2015 and 2017 were good.
Yeah. And so a lot of that, there's been a lot of celebrity deaths and stuff this year. I think, so, and a bunch of people online are like, 2016's been horrible. I can't wait for it to get over with. The problem is everybody that's saying that is all like the same age group. It's all our age group. And so it's all like people who listen to the same kind of music and watch the same movies. And so it seems like everybody we know and care about is dying, but it's just because they're all aging at the same rate. So it's not like there's something magical about 2016 and in a week this is going to stop. All those people are still going to keep getting older and still dying off. The rock and roll folks that we listen to as kids are getting up in that age. And it's got nothing to do with the year.
Yeah, it's just we're a bunch of whiny butts. We can't handle change. It's really what it is.
Yeah, that's it. So on to topics. So this week, customarily I bring Shane on at the end of the year, and we talk about nonsense. Is the last episode, just things that have happened over the year. A bunch of people died, so we got the fun topic out of the way right away. But Shane had some other stuff he wanted to talk to. This show is going to be frenetic, all over the place, have very little to do with technology, and if I keep my robe on the entire time, it will be a win for everybody involved. So.
Yeah, well, and speaking of your robe, so you bring up you're going to try and get yourself on Snapchat for 2017. I do want to make sure that you understand that junk mail on Snapchat is not what you're hoping for.
Completely different thing.
So when we complain about spam later in the show, just remember that spam and junk mail are two different things on Snapchat.
Yeah, so Snapchat's been around for a while. For those of you that are my age and don't think about it, Snapchat initially was a messaging program where you could send we'll call it confidential things, and it was not possible for the person who received that information to save it in any way without you being alerted. That was the thing. And so if you sent somebody a picture of whatever, your cat, whatever, but you didn't want that picture of your cat getting out, if that person tried to take a screenshot of it or save it, Snapchat would tell you and you would know they did that. Okay, so obviously that just didn't work out the way they wanted. But that's what Snapchat's been forever. So Snapchat realized that market had to evolve. And I remember a couple of years ago, one of my cousin's kids, who was like 18 or 19 at the time, was like, hey, you should get on Snapchat. And I'm like, I don't need the things that are offered on Snapchat. Yeah. Happily married. Got junk mail of my own. I appreciate the offer. Honest, I do. But it's kind of become like a more legitimate thing now.
Yeah, I mean, it's got its price, right? Because they added the stories or whatever, so you can kind of put like, here's what happened all throughout the day. So instead of just sending people pictures of your cat, you can send them, here's kind of my whole day in pictures. And I think that's kind of helped because you can also make those stories public, so it's a little more legitimate. But I think for me, right away, the premise, right? Well, you can send these messages and no one can, save them or see them. I'm like, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't care.
Well, so I don't know that they ever said nobody can save them. I think what they said is nobody can save them without you knowing that they saved them, which is a bit of a distinction.
I mean, I agree, but the kids looked at it as, okay, this is a great way to send pictures of my cat without it ever being, kept on the internet forever. And like you can't put anything on the internet and not have it go forever.
Yeah.
And I know people right away, they're like, oh, look, here it is. I'm holding the button. They grab their other phone. They take a picture of their other one. And
yeah.
Oh, it's like when we used to fight with people here, some SharePoint content to make Jared happy. We used to fight with people about IRM, right? They're like, hey, I'm going to send this document. And if I use IRM, then no one could ever see it, copy it, or do anything I don't want them to. I'm like, no, it's on their screen. They can take pictures. They can, take their monitor and just lay it on the photocopier. I mean, there's ways around it. If you send things to someone else, they can do what they want with it.
Yeah. So the counter argument to that was all security, IRM, Snapchat, passwords, locks on your doors, any of that kind of stuff. All that does is make you a harder target. That's the only thing. And so for things like Snapchat and IRM, there's kind of two kind of things that can happen. If you're a hard enough target, if it's a crime of opportunity, if somebody's just looking to break into any house, a lock is going to slow them down. So in that aspect, you're better off having a lock than not having a lock. But if somebody's trying to break into Shane's house, having a lock may or may not be helpful. So IRM was good to help with, the crimes of opportunity. But yeah, if somebody was trying to do industrial espionage or something, they're going to find a way around it. But I agree. I guess that whole thing of, well, you shouldn't even try because there's this one way around it, so you shouldn't do anything. That's never really resonated with me.
Yeah, but I've always struggled with people who say because there's this one way to stop it, my conscience is clean. I tried to stop them, and it made it secure. Yeah, and so I was always on the opposite side, right? You were always you have your point. I've just always been more of the, as long as you understand there's ways around it, we can go forward with this. Not the, oh yeah, IRM just makes it magical, or Snapchat just takes it away from them.
Yep, I can send pictures of my roosters to anybody I want to, and nobody can get away because I'm using Snapchat. Yeah, you got to be reasonable about your expectations.
Yeah. So, speaking of unreasonable, our good friend Rex Ryan and his brother Rob, it was confirmed for me as well, have been relieved of duties in Buffalo.
Yep.
So football news, I know that's very important to our viewers.
Yep. Shane and I have been talking football all morning, and yep. So that was one of the things. So they have been all over the Ryan brothers. I would be curious. The Buffaloes had a rough season this season, so I'll be curious who picks them up and how and where they show up.
Yeah, and it's so weird. Rex had so much success in the Jets, in that very short period with Mark Sanchez and the butt fumbling quarterback at the helm. Because his defense was so good, but he can't seem to scratch that itch anymore. I don't know what it is.
I mean, there's a lot of things. It's never one person anywhere. It's never one person at a team or a business or whatever. And you just got to find that thing where everybody gels. And yeah, it gelled at the Jets for him. I don't think it ever did at Buffalo. And I think Mark Chrisman in the chat room, he's in Buffalo. I don't know if he is a Bills fan or not. Maybe he's one of those people that took a shovel out there a couple of weeks ago and helped them dig the stadium out.
Yeah, well, Mark's busy talking about butts on photocopiers. I don't even know if I don't know if I should be reading any of that, so it's hard to say.
He always brings the conversation down. You and I have such high-class, intelligent discussions, and then Mark Chrisman's always spoiling it for everybody.
And that one, is that a picture of Spider-Man or Deadpool? I can't even tell. Well, I mean, you have to, right? It's Deadpool colors, but he's kind of doing a Spider-Man-esque pose. So that's the reason I had to question it. It's bad art.
He's pole dancing. That's Deadpool on a pole. He's pole dancing.
Interesting. See, folks, see what you missed by not being in the chat room.
Yeah. But more important NFL news, and really the important thing, is the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's all just take a moment to bask in the glory that is my Kansas City Chiefs. So if you missed it, the Chiefs have had a phenomenal season. I've done a great job. Had a little bit of a rough start. Had a few injuries, but again, it was the team. Every time somebody would get hurt, they would come up. And so now they are they're in a rough conference this year. The Oakland Raiders and them have been kind of fighting it out to see who the conference champions are. But regardless of who takes the AFC West, the Chiefs are either going to be the 5th seed for the wild card or they're going to get the conference championship. But the funnest thing was their game against Denver on Sunday. Yes, Christmas Day. So I guess I will tell the story. So they've been having problems. When they get in the red zone, get these 2 or 3 yard touchdowns, they've having some problems with that. So in the past, they've done what many NFL teams will do. They get the biggest lineman, offensive or defensive, they can, and they just run him up the middle. And so in the Chiefs, that's usually been Dontari Poe, number 92, weighing in at a svelte 350 pounds. And so what they'll do is they'll line him up, and everybody knows what's going to happen. Everybody, offense, defense, everybody in the stands, the guy selling, sodas, everybody knows what's going to happen. They're going to give him the ball, and everybody's going to push him through. And so they got down there. They're on the 2 yard line, couldn't quite make it happen. Bring him in. The crowd goes wild. They know what's going to happen. So snap the ball. He gets the ball. He runs like a yard, and then he stops. He basically does a free throw. And everybody is like piling in the middle of the field trying to block this and push this. And there's like one Chief in the back at the end. So he just catches it. It was an awesome play. It was the greatest.
And now he owns the record for the largest man to ever throw a touchdown pass.
And he also owns the record as the only player in the NFL to both sack a quarterback and throw a touchdown pass in one season.
Nice. I did not know that record.
Yep.
And there was a lot of fun things that happened with that. One is I was very sad that he didn't Tebow after it was over. Because for those of you who don't know, Tebow, before he did all the other stupid stuff, he invented Tebowing, which was this whole, I don't know, whatever it was. So he didn't Tebow, so that kind of let me down. The other thing was he was so excited. The guy who caught the touchdown for him knew he wanted that football, right? So the guy brought in with the football to him, and he's just all still, juicy jack from throwing a touchdown. So then he spikes it and runs away from him like, dummy, you want that ball. You're going to be really mad next year. So hopefully he got his ball. I don't know. I never did see enough a camera angle to see if he picked it up or not.
Well, and so I just looked at Demetrius Harris was the guy that he threw it to. So I think the reason you didn't see that was because if you notice, Demetrius Harris got flagged for doing an excessive use of the football. Football's a prop. And so they try never to show those things on TV when players do that. So that's why we didn't see what happened to the ball, because he was doing something naughty with it afterwards.
Well, no, so Demetrius Harris did the Tiger Woods. Right. And after he did that, after that was over, after he got the penalty, he then took the ball to the big guy. Poe. Poe, yeah. So he did that afterwards, but Poe had to go block on the field goal. So Poe took the ball, spiked it, and the ball went that way. And then Poe walked over to go get in line. I'm like, go get the ball. So anyway, that'd be an interesting thing for you, the Chiefs fan, to figure out for me is, did Poe get his football or not?
I hope to God he deserved it. That was that game went well. Now, I will say, though, as a Chiefs fan, we've had a great season. There have been some things. And the Chiefs were dominating this game the entire time. There was never a point in time where the Chiefs were not ahead. But that was also the case last week against the Tennessee Titans. They were ahead for the entire game until the last 5 seconds. And turns out you can be ahead in a football game for 59 minutes and 55 seconds. As long as you're not ahead at the very end, you don't win. It doesn't count.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so last week as a Chiefs fan, they were ahead the entire time against the Titans. Yeah, it's great. And then in the end, the Titans kicked a field goal and won, and the Chiefs lost the game. So I never let myself get too complacent during this game because it turns out if you're not ahead at the very end, it doesn't count. And that's very frustrating.
Yeah, the Detroit Lions have learned that. I think they've won, like 7 of their 8 games in the last 5 minutes of it. So,
yeah.
But so since we've completely bored all the European audience with this American football stuff, let's talk about Europeans in a different light. And that is the age-old debate. I don't know we haven't talked about this before, so I'm not sure where you're going to land on this, but is Die Hard a Christmas movie? This has been blowing up my Facebook feed for the last couple of weeks. And what's Todd Clint's opinion on this?
I absolutely think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and I have watched Die Hard in the last. I think we watched it Christmas Eve as we were wrapping presents because it takes place on Christmas Eve. Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, the whole premise of the movie revolves around Christmas.
Now, but see, I guess one of the things I caution viewers is they weigh your opinion on this or not, right? Is you are a Nickelback fan as well, and so I know that kind of causes some grief for people.
Are you saying my judgment is suspect? Is that what you're saying?
Not past the judgment. I'm just pointing out to people other things that you have pointed out in the past. But yeah, it's I've probably only seen Die Hard 5 or 6 times. I'm not a religious watcher of it. But this year, Facebook being what Facebook is, right? Every time you mention Die Hard, it's like, oh, look, here's an ad for Die Hard Christmas ornaments or Die Hard Christmas T-shirts and things like that. So Facebook did a good job with their algorithms to make sure that I had an opportunity, if I believed in Die Hard as a Christmas story, to accelerate that.
So where do you fall? Do you fall Christmas movie or not Christmas movie?
I think I give it a Christmas movie as well.
Yeah. So for me, so obviously Christmas is the MacGuffin in the movie. It's the thing that gets, McClane from New York to California and all that. But I think the thing that makes it a Christmas movie for me is twofold. Number one, and this is a personal thing that doesn't impact anybody but me, but when, oh craps, I can't think of his name, the officer, when he's, at the beginning when they're introducing the character, he's singing, oh, the weather outside is frightful. And then he forgets the words and he says, dum, da dum, delightful. One of my buddies, so this movie came out in 88? I was 14 years old. One of my buddies thought that was actually the words to the song because he had seen Die Hard so many times. He thought that was actually how the song went. And it wasn't until we were probably in our 20s that somebody was singing the actual words and he was like, what? So for me, that obviously was a very pivotal part of my friend's Christmas education. But the other thing is, I think in the closing credits, they're playing, that song, they're playing Let It Snow. So I mean, everything about the movie, it's got Christmas songs in the credits and it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and it has a happy ending. I think that's the most important part that makes it a Christmas movie, not music, Christmas music. So
a funny thing about that, because I'm a nerd and all that, so that was based on a book. That wasn't just a movie. That was based on a book that they turned into a movie. And the other thing that was funny about it is they were going to make it a sequel to Commando with Schwarzenegger. So, Commando, he goes down, rescues his daughter, Alyssa Milano and all that. They were going to try to make Die Hard a sequel to that, but Schwarzenegger didn't want to do it or was busy or whatever. And so then they're like, oh, we got this guy. And at that point, in 88, when that came out, Bruce Willis was known for moonlighting. That's all he'd ever done. So he was this comedian, this slapstick comedian thing. And they're like, well, we can't get Schwarzenegger, but we got this other guy really cheap. So we'll have him do it instead. I mean, can you imagine what Bruce Willis's career would have been like without Die Hard? I mean, that was the thing.
Yeah, he would have just done more movies like it was a ghost movie, the I See Dead People thing.
Oh, Sixth Sense,
Sixth
and
Sense,
Hudson Hawk, some of those other excellent ones like that.
Yeah. Well, and and staying with the violent Christmas spirit, I don't know if did you see the news that apparently with all the shopping yesterday, there was like major mall fights in like 4 or 5 malls in different parts of the country.
Yep.
Thought that was pretty awesome. It kind of brought me back to those old days. I don't know about you, but when I was like 12, it used to be cool on Friday night to go hang out at the mall and and wear my dark T-shirt and sit there and be all.
You were cool. Oh yeah.
No, I was a loser, but I was. I had cool friends. Probably not true either.
No. You do now though.
Are you calling me your friend? Is this a Christmas miracle? Todd and Mitch were friends?
I take it all back.
Oh, no backseats. This is the internet. It's forever. I'm going to put my monitor on the photocopier right now. But yeah, I just thought that was funny that, we've gotten used to Black Friday fighting. Now, apparently, the day after Christmas is a fighting holiday too. Is that too much UFC in our lives? I don't even know.
I don't know. So for one thing, when I was growing up, I didn't live within 45 miles of a mall, so there was no place for me to go on Friday nights. But yeah, so that is a thing, the mall fighting, the deals and all that. I am proud to say I didn't step foot out of my house yesterday. Like I didn't go out and get the newspaper. I didn't do anything. I didn't leave the house at all. And my parents were coming down because of some logistic stuff and whether they weren't able to come down for the family thing. So my parents came down and I'm emailing my mom and she's like, oh, we could come down on Monday, maybe go out and get something to eat. And I'm like, I'm not leaving the house on Monday. You guys are welcome to come down and we'll cook. But there is no way in hell that I'm going out the day after Christmas and trying to find a table for 7 with all that going on. Nope. I'm with you.
I went out. So the only thing I did yesterday is I went out to McAllister's, Nick and I, some lunch. And there was actually no one out here, right? Because we have 400 malls within 45 minutes of me. Yeah. So it wasn't too bad. So you might have stayed home for no reason because you could have saw a fight and you missed it.
Yeah, bring some popcorn with me and just sit back and watch.
Yeah. All right. Which I'm guessing. So the next 2 topics are actually show related. Save this for next week.
Yeah. So I'm looking at M. There's a lot of good stuff in M. We never did the I specific podcast that we threatened to do.
Yeah.
I is about Rogue One. So I have to make a joke here. So topic I is talk about the sequel to Rogue One. Rogue One is the new Star Wars movie. I just hope to God that the sequel to Rogue One is called Rogue 2. Is that an obvious joke? But Shane and I have threatened to do a podcast just on Rogue One so we could do spoilers and all that.
But I think the good news is we can talk about Rogue One sequel without too much threat. If you haven't seen that movie since 1977, you're probably in good shape.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's going to be this movie about a kid who grows up. So we should do that. But so what in M? So M, I've got just some of the big tech stories that happened in 2016. So
start with I, and because I'll add 1 to I, and
you'll add 1 to I. Well, I there is 1. So the and these are in no particular order, maybe reverse alphabetical. But the first thing I had was Apple, when they released the iPhone 7, they had no headphone jack on it. And that was very controversial. There was much gnashing of teeth and ripping of robes. As an iPhone 7 owner, Shane, what's your take on it?
I don't really like music. I think that's always what breaks down, right? I don't think I've stuck headphone jacks into a phone to listen to music in my entire life, so I don't really care. But I think the more interesting thing about this story, one, is the fact that it's still not out. So it's one of the few cases of Apple announcing something and not making it available, right? You couldn't pick it up for Christmas. All that fanfare, all that hubbub was just missed. And I think that probably was kind of back to some of those articles you've seen that, has Apple lost their way again? I mean, they haven't. They're making billions of dollars, but the articles are being written again. So I don't know.
Yeah. So the AirPods are not out yet? I thought I'd seen reviews of them and people having them.
I didn't. Can you buy them?
I don't know.
I don't know. I went on their website and I couldn't figure out how to buy them on their website today. But maybe I've seen reviews as well, but I haven't seen them.
Yeah, like real people have them. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the one review I saw, kind of point out that, hey, this thing falls out, it's kind of gone, right? And so people are already going to make the clip-ons, like the sunglass clip-ons, they're going to make, AirPod clip-ons, but then that makes them the same as the headphones that you have with the Bluetooth whack-a-mole thing anyway. So what's the move? I don't know.
So here's my take on it. I'm an Android guy. I don't have an iPhone. My Android has a headphone jack on it, the way phones should have and have had for the last couple hundred years. I do plug headphones into my phone all the time, and for me specifically, this is a problem because I use noise canceling headphones. Mm-hmm. And I use noise canceling headphones when I mow the lawn, when I run the snowblower and all that. And I have not found any good wireless noise canceling headphones. And this isn't just me being a stinker. This is me trying to protect my hearing against the lawnmower and the snowblower and all that kind of stuff. And so an iPhone with this restriction wouldn't allow for that. The other thing is I was cruising around Amazon, as I'm wont to do sometimes, a couple of months ago, and I found like a little in-ear wireless thing, and it was like $30 and it was just one ear. And I was thinking about playing with that because like in the summer I go outside, take my smoke breaks and I walk around and stuff like that. And I'm like, this would be good for listening to podcasts and stuff, and I'm doing that. And I had it and it worked really well. And this fall I ran a race, a 10K race, and I had that thing talking my times in my ear, and it worked like a champ. I loved it. And it was in the fall, so I had like a ear cover on or something. Worked great. Got to the end of the race, went inside, took the ear cover thing off. At some point, that little earphone thing fell out. I have no idea when, and I haven't seen it since. So I had the thing for like 3 weeks. So with these AirPods, this thing was $30. Those AirPods are going to be more expensive. So I don't know.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, right? My iPhone did come with an adapter, so I can plug it into the Lightning port and connect the headphones. So you can do a wired connection still.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, the other thing. So I'll ask you about this. We'll get off on a nerdy tangent. But you said that one of the reasons that you like when you do snow blowing and cut the grass and stuff, you use the noise canceling. You think that's helping your hearing in any way, shape, form, or fashion?
I do. So twofold. Number one, it keeps me from going crazy with the like I'm not cranking up the volume on my phone as much to drown out the sound of the other stuff.
Okay.
And so number two, I mean, thinking of the science of it, there's waves coming in one way, and then my earphone thing, they're putting waves the other way and canceling them out. So I think it is.
Interesting. Because like when I was pressure washing and I was wearing, I did something very similar. I put on the old the ear
noise canceling.
I put in noise, and I
put a banana in your ear.
I put a banana in my ear. There you go. I was wearing my headphones. And I guess I felt like I was just turning the music up so loud, even with the noise canceling. Right? And I had the Bose QC, the old school Bose, and I don't know. I guess I felt like I was doing just as much damage just with good noises instead of bad noises. But I don't know. I've never thought about the science of it. Yeah,
well, and so I have QC20s, which are like earphone sort of things, whereas yours are the over-the-ear can type things. And so mine are like maybe 10% earplug noise blocking and 90% noise canceling, whereas yours are just kind of all noise canceling. So I think mine might have done a better job blocking that out. But I can go by the volume control on my phone. I don't have to crank it as loud if I'm wearing those as opposed to something else.
Good, interesting.
Now I will say though the gold standard. I don't know if I still have them. Long time ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Oh, they're not in here. I bought some noise blocking earphones from Shure, and those things are great. And they're essentially earplugs that are earphones. So there's no technology, there's no canceling. Those things work great. You stick those things in your ear and it's like the cone of silence from Get Smart. I mean, it's just, you can't hear anything. Those things are great, but two things have prevented me from buying those again. Number one, because they are earplugs, like, I fly to Europe and Asia and all that kind of stuff, your ears just get tired from that constant pressure of those things pushing against the inside of your ears. And the other thing is I got to where I couldn't get them seated exactly right so they would block all the noise. But those things were great. If I could get another pair of those that worked the way my first pair did, those things were awesome. And so there's no doubt that it's helping your hearing because it's physically blocking the sound.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I've always been an over-the-ear kind of guy. For whatever reason, any of the ones that go in your ear, they always hurt my ear after about 10 minutes, quite frankly. I'm like, ah. Yeah. So I always have to go with over-the-ear stuff. And I prefer like the Bose that actually go over my big giant ears instead of just sit on top of my ears.
I might go. So they've got new ones out, the QC35s or something. I might go for those. My QC20s, wrapped them up enough that one of the earplugs doesn't work anymore. I've got a loose connection in there somewhere, so I might have to replace them. I might try the 35s, which are kind of the over-the-ear ones.
Well, I'll be interested to see how you do when you spend all that money on them.
But so taking away the earplug jack, I think, is going to be tough. The other thing that your lightning plug thing I don't think addresses is there have just been a bunch of third-party peripherals that have figured out how to use that earphone jack for something other than sound, like, the square readers and stuff like that. So all of those things are going to have to get retooled. And since it's not just audio, it's not just analog thing, to get retooled, they have to get licensed by Apple, and they have to do all the handshaking stuff, and there's the opportunity for shenanigans there. And so, I don't know.
Well, and I think that's the, Apple kind of reiterated that message when they released the new MacBook Pro with, they want to sell dongles. They want to be in the business of selling adapters for everything.
Yeah.
And so I think that the removal of this jack, because as you point out, the things like Square that's become so popular, they're all going to have to be retooled to have a lightning adapter, and more chance for Apple to make another $1 or 60 for an adapter.
Well, and so you brought up the money. So it's funny when you think about it, but the iPhone and all of that, Apple makes more money than God. Apple makes so much money. They make so much revenue and profit. It is just, when you look at the numbers, they dwarf Microsoft. They dwarf everybody. It is so crazy.
Yeah. As long as they keep up this formula, that's why it's been interesting. This whole that we talked about last week, right? The lackluster demand for the MacBook Pro, and is it finally going to hurt them a little bit? I mean, they're still laughing all the way to the bank, but is it going to slow down? They
could not make another penny of profit for my lifetime and my kid's lifetime and still be in the black. I'm not crying for Apple. Speaking of Apple, our next topic was another one that I thought was interesting from a tech nerd standpoint. And I didn't write down when this was. I forgot what time of the year. It was way early this year, when there was the attacks in San Bernardino. Guy shot up his job. I can't remember what it was. But the FBI seized his iPhone. It was a work iPhone, and tried to compel Apple to unlock it for them. And so kind of a somber thing. I'm not going to make a lot of jokes about it. I'm obviously anti-killing people and anti-violence and all that kind of stuff. But I was not, as a technology person, as a slippery slope kind of person, I was not in favor of the federal government doing the thing that they did. And so from a technical standpoint, I will try to explain this in the way that I understand it, that makes sense. So iPhones are encrypted. The contents of them are encrypted. And then there's a place where the key for that encryption sits, and to get into that place, you need to put in your PIN. So a great analogy that I heard was, it's kind of like when your house is for sale. Your house has a bunch of locks, and it would be a real pain to rekey your lock every time you did something. But if your house is for sale, they put that little realtor thing on the outside, and they give every realtor the code to that box, and in that box is the key that gets you into the house. So what the FBI wanted was, they wanted the key to that little box to get into the iPhone. And Apple said, no, we won't give it to you. And it wasn't that Apple had it. They didn't have the key. They didn't know what it was. Nor did Apple have a way of discovering the key. It wasn't in a backup somewhere. It wasn't whatever. So the FBI was trying to compel Apple to write a tool that didn't exist to get them information that they didn't have. And I thought that was the government overreaching their bounds, especially in light of the fact that the person who owned the phone was deceased. So there was not necessarily the threat of that person doing more things. And then eventually the FBI dropped their suit against Apple because they say they got into the phone through some other method. And I just didn't like how they set that up.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I think it was an interesting thing, right? Because I think you point out earlier in a previous conversation, that really all the FBI was doing was trying to, take public sentiment to ramrod in some new laws. They didn't really care about getting into that phone as much as they cared about trying to get the laws, set the precedent so that they would be able to get into more devices later. Because I think it's universally accepted, right, that there's a way to, the bad guys know how to get into your iPhone if they really need to. And so hopefully if the bad guys can do it, the FBI, NSA, those type of guys can do it as well. So I think that was really what it was more about, was that whole just trying to drive our change of behavior around that.
Yeah. And so and that's what I kind of, the conspiracy theorist in me thought, the FBI recognizes probably not a lot of information in that phone that's going to help them, but public sentiment was very high. People were very understandably upset about this attack. So it would be easy for Apple to get, railroaded, or not railroaded, but public sentiment would have encouraged them to write this tool. Jared Shockley in the chat room mentions that the iPhone by default is set to erase that key, basically smash that box after 10 unsuccessful tries. And so the FBI was also curious if there was a way for Apple to write a patch that would make that not happen, so that the FBI could try repeated things.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2.
Exactly. But I think it was more than just the don't delete after 10. But and I guess the other thing is, you and I have seen enough, and this year, goodness, and that's another thing on here. Any way that the good guys can get in, the bad guys can get in. So had Apple figured out a way to get into there and get the contents of that box, or figured out a way to write something that, yes, the FBI would have been able to use it, but yes, so would have any other bad guy that wanted to get into iPhones. And, I was not a fan of that. That situation, I think, ended up as good as I had hoped it would be. The FBI ended up dropping the case and it didn't get set.
And they got it in the phone anyway because, well, let's face it, there's ways in.
Supposedly. I don't know that we've ever seen any of that, the content of that stuff. But
that's true. I guess we don't have any proof. But, there was an article last week. I think someone over, I want to say it was in Russia, right? Had some type of terrorist attack over there, and same type of deal. Russia immediately announced, we hacked his iPhone already. Once again, no proof, but that was like the first article I read about it was Russia's got access to his iPhone. And
the case here in the U.S. had a whole bunch of different quirks to it, like the guy had not backed his phone up to the iCloud. And so that would have been another ingress point to get to the information, except he hadn't done that. And he had there's just all kinds of different things that made this a very niche case. There's a lot of different ways to get at that content that just weren't available.
Yeah. Being on iCloud probably wouldn't have helped. I know you guys aren't really an Apple family, but my house, so now my kids both have iPads. This is going to sound really bad. My kids both have iPods. My wife has an iPad. My wife has an iPhone. I have an iPhone, right? We all of a sudden are infested with this Apple stuff.
Mm-hmm. I remember the day when past Shane would have kicked current Shane's. Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. It was Microsoft's own fault, though, right? They pretty much said we give up on Windows Phone, so I had to go somewhere. But so what the kids really wanted, originally, because I was fighting it so much, we just had one account kind of used across all devices. So as part of Christmas, this is genius. The kids aren't here. Part of Christmas, Santa Claus got the kids new iPads with new cases and new accounts. So they've both finally got to, be Luke at iCloud and Grant at iCloud and have their own accounts. So anyway, it's setting all of that up and trying to configure it to get the old stuff off of there before Santa took the old iPads away and got the new iPads. iCloud is a train wreck to try and actually go and manage and do. It's like, just tell your phone to sync it up there. And then when your phone feels like it, it'll dribble those pictures. I'm like, no, I want to go to sleep. The phone needs to do that right now. And then there's the whole family account. So the kids are on family accounts and Nicole is the organizer of the family and I'm an adult in the family and this other account's, Chewy's account, I guess. But then you go to iCloud and they're like, go to your phone to manage it. So sorry, it was a long-winded way to say that I don't think if that phone had been backed up into iCloud, it would have mattered. They would have said, the only way to get to the phone is from the device. You're screwed still.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was trauma in my life. I'm sorry. I needed to vent.
I understand. So a funnier note, the next one is the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. And all of the fun and frivolity with that. So for those of you that have not been just inundated with that, the Galaxy Note 7, Samsung released it in the middle of this year. It's kind of the phablet thing now. It's like a little bigger than a phone, a little smaller than a tablet, running Android and all that. What started happening is these things started spontaneously starting on fire a lot, a whole bunch. Like I'm sure every one of every phone, one of every type of phone at some point has started on fire. But they were really happening a lot. And so as the year progressed, Samsung started saying, well, I think it's only a charging thing. Don't charge them. But the airline industry really got up in arms about this because if these phones started on fire in the air, well, it caused a lot of problems. And so as a Samsung, I have a Samsung Galaxy 7, not Note, just Galaxy 7. And it has not started on fire even once on me, so that's good.
I keep hoping.
Yeah, but so I bring this up for a couple of things. Number one, just in the last week, there was an airplane flight that was grounded because somebody turned on Wi-Fi and saw a Wi-Fi network on the plane that said Galaxy Note 7. And so then, it got up to the captain. The captain thought somebody had one of these devices on the plane. They're banned from planes completely now. And so that was this falls into this is why we can't have nice things category anymore.
Yes. Well, so let me ask you this. If you had turned on your phone on the flight and you'd saw a Note 7 thing, would you have been like, stewardess, we need to shut this plane down?
I probably not. So here's why. And there's two kind of components to that. Number one, because you don't want to be the guy that grounds the flight because there's some jackass sitting in 27J who thinks he's a comedian and he's not. And number two, knowing the technology stuff the way I do, anybody can name anything. And so again, it could just be some joker back there. And I probably want to get to my destination more than I'm worried about that thing catching on fire. But that's a tough... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, right? I would have just been like, yeah, some guy's an idiot and just moved on. I would have never thought twice about, the plane is going to crash because someone named their access point. I reckon that's not even the name of the access point on the phone by default, I'm guessing. But
I think it's the name of the phone. I think whatever name you give the phone is the name that when you tether, I think.
I don't know. It's
and I don't want to get into racial humor or anything like this, but I did see a great joke. Trevor Noah, the guy who took over for Jon Stewart on Comedy Central, when these stories started happening over the summer and the first story started trickling out about these Note 7s catching on fire on planes while people are on them, Trevor Noah's like, if you don't believe in white privilege, think of this story. A white guy is on a plane, pulls a flaming electronic device out of his coat, throws it on the floor and stomps on it, and the person next to him says, "Are you okay?" He's like, if you don't believe in white privilege, that's a great example. Now, I'm not going to get into all the politics of that, but that was funny. That cracked me up. There are a lot of ways that situation would have ended differently with different actors.
Yeah, so if we ever switch to that XXX full-time show, I think we could go down this rabbit hole. But I think today we're going to say veer left and move on.
Next topic. So what? Go ahead. You want to take it?
I was going to jump down to, because we are 45 minutes in here.
Oh, geez, yeah.
I thought the IoT hacking stuff was interesting, right? So we had two major denial of service attacks on the DNS infrastructure that, it took down Twitter, for God's sakes, for an afternoon one day, and a few other major websites. And I think that was an interesting twist because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
But I was reading an article, those 2017 predictions, and this one guy, right, who's just trying to get article likes, number 7's the best for you. Yeah. But he wrote an article that talked about, how there's a very good chance that I think the internet goes down for a couple of days in 2017, because I think that those of us that understand these type of attacks understand that, they were just tests. They were just figuring out how were they going to respond when they did these small scale attacks. And, can they take the whole internet down for a day or two? And can you imagine what that would do to our country? And it got real dark real fast for me, thinking that's bad.
You can't get to those funny cat videos like I'm used to. The one that you're talking about, the attack on Dyn, which owns a bunch of the DNS. I'm not going to get into a big philosophical debate about DNS and how it's set up, but yeah, somebody attacked Dyn using a bunch of IoT devices. So these are devices like security cameras and things like that are internet connected, but are really low in the stack and basically have hard-coded usernames and passwords. So the bad guys figured out how to discover these devices, had the hard-coded usernames and passwords that couldn't be changed, and then hack those devices to make them do bad things. And in this case, there's a way to do DNS spoofing that takes stuff down. They took tried to do a distributed denial service attack against Dyn, which took DNS down. That one was, and I say this flippantly, but that was small scale. That really only affected the East Coast because of the way DNS is set up. So I didn't feel it much. I felt it a little bit, but also internally, I have a bunch of DNS infrastructure in my house, so I'm not the average bear when it comes to that. DNS is the way to go after it, though. I mean, I think that's the greatest way to take it down. And I think there's going to be more of that. Yeah, I think they figured out. Now, part of that hopefully will be that IoT manufacturers will make default usernames and passwords hard-coded, because that was the thing here. These were hard-coded. So even if you knew that this was a security issue, you couldn't address it. You couldn't go in and change the password. So hopefully there won't be as much of that.
Yeah, and one, I guess, and in theory, right, if you had that bad camera, and it was behind your router here at home, and you were using the right, port blocking at your home, in theory, that camera shouldn't have been susceptible to the attack. But then, do you remember the one about the Philips light bulbs where you could actually connect to someone's wireless from the street? You could hack the light bulb, and then the light bulb would attack the other IoT devices in the house. So then those aren't safe. I don't know. Oh.
Yeah, and so anytime you've got something like that that has to dial into a home service, now you've got DNS spoofing, man-in-the-middle type attacking. Yeah, if you can get back through, that's going to be a problem.
Yes.
But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that next year. I don't know that we're going to see 2 days down of the internet, but we're going to see more of that kind of stuff happening.
Yeah, well, that's then the internet, right? Because of the whole mesh, I guess, pattern the internet's built, there seems like there's a lot of redundancy. It feels like it'd be kind of hard to really take the whole internet with you for 2 days, but at the same time, you figure there's probably just some wire somewhere, right, that someone's realized that, man, if somebody cut that one wire, the whole place goes. If
somebody tripped over when I was in IT in the late 90s, it seemed like backhoe operators just had a war on fiber. You don't see much of that anymore. But yeah, just the wrong one, and all of the eastern seaboard goes down for a day.
Yeah, we had a dedicated ISDN between us and a location about 100 miles away, and at least once every 3 months they would come by with a backhoe and just be like, "Hey, watch this."
One of my favorite email sigs from that time was a buddy of mine had it in his email. He's like, "Always carry a length of fiber with you, so if you ever get lost, you can bury it and then ask the backhoe operator for directions." Because as soon as you bury a piece of fiber, there's going to be a backhoe cutting it.
Yeah, they've gotten a lot better about that. I'm kind of, I don't know if they learned to finally dig or if once again just more resiliency, but yeah, that has not been a big of an issue.
Boy, for a while there, it was horrible. So speaking of hacking, the scary part about that here in the U.S., there's been allegations of hacking trying to influence the election. The Democratic National Convention Committee was certainly attacked. How much, how influential that was and all that was crazy. But I think as I talk to people about hacking, people still have this idea that hackers are the same guys they were 20 years ago who are just doing it for the attention and doing it for the laughs. And it is very much a business. It's about money. It's about power. And it's not those same guys that did the Melissa virus in, in 2000.
I remember that one.
Yeah. And so it's a bigger deal. And we can see now the DNC, the RNC.
Yeah. I try to explain that to people. I'm like, you understand there's people that get up in the morning, they take a shower, get their cup of coffee, they drive to work, they sit at a desk, they clock in the time clock, they hack for 8 hours, they have some coffee along the way, and then they log out, they go home. I mean, it's a job. They
get promotions based on it. There are managers and bonuses and
Yeah, how many devices did you own this month on their their performance evals and things like that? And I don't think that a lot of people who don't think about it, right? They don't understand this mindset, this shift. It's not a 12-year-old kid in the basement who's just trying to get a free website with cats on it. He's trying to it's someone that's in there trying to make money, and it's easily a $1 billion industry these days between the hacking for money, and then the viruses stuff, the ransomware and things like that.
Oh.
Apparently one of the ransomware companies was running a 25% Christmas discount. I kid you not. I saw that. They were, "Hey, congratulations, we've hacked your box, but because it's Christmas, 25% off unlocking fees." I mean, that's a legitimate business model.
Well, and I saw another one of those. So this crypto zone stuff. I saw another one where if you got attacked and all of your stuff got encrypted and you lost all your data, you could pay them the Bitcoin ransom, whatever, or you could infect friends. You could send them email addresses of your friends, and if X number of your friends got infected, they would unlock you for free. I'm going back to stone tablets and chisels. That's The Christmas special, that was a fun one. I like that.
I guess you think about it, they're like college kids, right? You probably got 4,000 friends' email addresses. You're like, hell yeah, dorm 7. Yep, here's all their addresses. Give me my stuff back.
So then that brings us into the scariest topic of all, topic M6, autonomous cars. And I can't wait. It's coming out. There are people busting at the gates to do this. Uber's all over it. Tesla's all over it. Everybody wants to do it. But I didn't realize that we put it in the notes right after all the hacking, and now I'm kind of afraid of it.
Yeah, I mean, you should be afraid of it. When apparently the city of San Francisco is going to save you, though. They took away all of Uber's licensing to do it.
Yep, took all the registrations away. Yeah.
It's so interesting. Who other than people who drive cars for a living thinks that autonomous cars are a bad idea? I mean, you're going to fix traffic. They're going to fix, really the need. I agree with the people who think at some point we'll stop needing a car, right? The whole idea that you only use your car maybe 2 hours a day. So why sit in the garage 22 hours a day when you can just rent the car for the 2 hours you need it, and it just shows up at your front door just like it was in the garage all night?
Yeah. And I've, because this is something you and I have talked about to death, but I mean, think about when you build houses, not having to have land for garages. You just don't need them. There'd be cars parked out someplace else. Stores with far less significant parking because we don't need them. The cars just go off and drive themselves someplace, or somebody else uses it. So just great things like that. I'm a huge fan of all those things.
It will, though, So, I mean, I get where the autonomous cars, they're solving things like they work in, fancy city with proper signs and proper streets. But then I go back to like where Nicola's from, up in Defiance, Ohio, right? For those of you that don't know where that's at, it's by Toledo, which you probably don't know where it's at either. So
on the hand, where's it at? I forget.
It's up here. But yeah, when I go up there and I'm bored for driving through cornfields, I realize that places like that, are major infrastructure improvements away from, I think, autonomous cars being an option for them, just because there aren't signs, there aren't lane markers. It might be a legit road that people have to use, might just be a gravel path. I don't know. I don't know where that's going to factor into this conversion to autonomous cars as well.
Yeah. So a couple things. We're talking about the parking lots. There's a story. So you alluded to it. Uber rolled a bunch of autonomous cars out in San Francisco without asking for permission, basically. And San Francisco said, "Oh no, you don't," and they revoked the registration for all the cars that were then autonomous. But leading up to that, Uber already had a storage place set up for all these autonomous cars. So the autonomous car would pick you up and drop you off, and then if it didn't have a fare, it would go back to this out of the way parking place. The parking place that they bought and they had was a huge homeless tent city. And I forget what the name of what it was called. I was proud of how Uber handled it. So apparently Uber went down to this place a couple weeks ahead of time and said, hey, we feel real bad. We're taking your tent city down. We're going to use it. We're giving you like 2 weeks notice. So if you got someplace to go, and I get that if you had someplace to go, you probably wouldn't be here. But if you've got someplace to go, now's the time. We're coming back in a couple of weeks. We're going to start moving you out. We own this spot. It's ours, whatever. Okay. So that was cool of them. They didn't just come in with the bulldozers and take it down. But then when they did show up, they showed up with moving vans. They showed up with movers. They showed up with food, like pizza and stuff like that. And so all of these people that they moved out, like there were homeless advocates that couldn't say a bad thing about how the homeless people were kicked out of this because of how Uber handled it. They're like, they treated them with respect. They fed them. They helped them find other places. And I'm like, that was good. Uber gets a lot of bad press because of different things. I'm a big fan of Uber, but I thought that they handled this incredibly delicate situation with a great amount of class. I was proud to see that they did it that way.
Yeah, and I always wondered, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but why does someone like Uber go and try this for the first time in somewhere like San Francisco that's, their government's known for not putting up with shenanigans and things like this, right? If they showed up in Cincinnati and did it, we'd be like, someone wants to be in Cincinnati? Hell yeah, do your autonomous cars. Run over some kids. We don't care.
Well, I think it's two things. I think it's all the smart people that they're employing are out there, and so it's easier to fix that. Number two, that area is just more tolerant of that because it's other smart people that are doing other things like that, disruptive things. And number three, like you mentioned, the infrastructure. San Francisco's got good infrastructure. They've got decent internet connections. They've got, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's probably why. And I guess the other thing is that's an easy win. They win there, they've got it. I mean, it's going to be tough for other places to not do it.
Yeah, California just seems to like passing laws and regulations, and you will do things their way. It just seems like it's such a tough state to get traction. Come over here, go to Iowa, right? I mean, good Lord, wherever that is, I'm certain that you guys would be like, once again, if someone wants to come here and spend money, we'll do whatever you need to try and, move up the ladder. I just think that's, I guess this is a broader topic for me because I see so many of these startups, like, oh, I got to go to Silicon Valley. I got to be out there, Palo Alto and all those fun places. And they're more ferocious, right? The cost of living is so much higher. The regulations, it's so much harder to do things there. But because everyone else does things there, you feel like you have to do things there. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very real thing. Another aspect of this that's funny is, so my kids, as you can understand, everybody in the household loves the Trans Am. And so one of my favorite gifts for Christmas was a die-cast Trans Am, the doors open, all that. So that's the thing. And so my kids are always jockeying for who gets it when I die, which is a little morbid when I say it like that. But they're always, and I'm thinking, so my son is 3. He's not going to be able to drive, get his permit in 11 years, get his license in 13 years. What will the driving landscape look like in 13 years? Will he even need a driver's license? Will he even care? Like, will it be that rite of passage? Once he can bring up whatever the app of the day is and have the magic car come pick him up, will he even want to fuss with trying to start dad's car? And it's crazy.
Yeah. No, I've accepted a long time ago that by the time my kids get there, and I mean, grants, I got 9 more years. But things like cell phones and all this stuff that we just consider commonplace, it's all gonna be different by then. It's going to be chip implants in their heads or something. And oh well, what do you do?
Yep. Well, I think we've gone way over.
Yes, we have.
All that. So let's hit the promotion part. So the first thing, the charity drive is going strong. We've got nearly $2,000 in there so far. If you want to take part in that, basically, you donate to a charity of your choice, something that's important to you. I don't care what it is. You go out to pointgowan.com/TKCharity, sign up for that. And we're just trying to see how philanthropic the hooligans can be before my birthday next month. And so we're going to tally them all together, see what the hooligans put up, donate. I will match it this year. I matched it last year. Cost me, I think you guys raised like $3,500, something like that. So hopefully we can do a little bit more than that this year. Bring that bar up a little bit. Again, we're already at 2,000 or so. But again, pointgowan.com/TKCharity. Sign up for that. And then go forth and donate. If you do it by the end of the year, you got 3 days. You can take it off of 2016's taxes. So everybody likes to pay Uncle Sam less. So do that.
Very nice. Yeah, it's a great cause. It's $3,500. I'm hoping they get to 5,000 this year and really make you write some checks that hurt.
Make one of my kids not go to college, something like that.
What do you do? The only promotion I've got is I did publish learning objects and scripts in PowerShell out on Petrie.com. So go check that out. Keep clicking on the article, just hitting refresh. So they see that my accounts are going higher. So they're like, hey, Shane should write for us more. That's really all that matters.
Yep. And that's good. I'm glad they're putting up with you. It keeps you busy, keeps you off the streets.
It does. And I got our podcast out there again, so hopefully it was not as controversial of a description this time, but there's always next time.
Yeah, you've always got more opportunities to bring it down a little bit. So yeah.
I do.
Well, everybody, there's no chance that I will get this produced before 2017, but Happy New Year just the same. And we will see you next year. Hopefully some big changes, maybe a new title screen that I can't screw up, things like that. But have a Happy New Year, stay safe, and we'll see you next year.
Toodles.
Bye, everybody.